So good morning all, and at the outset I am thankful to Dr. M.B. Agarwal and MHG for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. So today I am going to talk on ibrutinib, which is BTK inhibitor. BTK, as all of us know, is a signaling molecule in BCR activation pathway. Activation of BTK results into downstream signaling events which are responsible for the cell survival, proliferation, cell adhesion, and migration. All these activities are implicated in the pathogenesis of many low-grade lymphoproliferative disorder, including CLL, MCL, and MZL. Today, I am going to focus my talk on ibrutinib and its safety and efficacy in CLL patient upfront and relapse refractory setting. It is available in capsule form, 140 milligram strength. Both original and generic forms are available in India. So the dose in CLL is 420 milligram daily. It primarily gets metabolized in liver by cytochrome P450, and hence its drug interaction are unavoidable, and one must keep in mind that all the patients who are taking concurrent strong inhibitors or inducer should be contraindicated to take ibrutinib. For same reason, consumption of grapefruit and civil oranges are also contraindicated. Reduced dose of ibrutinib to 140 milligram per day can be given if patient is consuming moderate inhibitors. So if you see the integrated safety analysis of patients with CLL from two ibrutinib phase 3 trials, it shows that adverse events were primarily grade 1 to 2 and the dose adjustments were infrequent. And dose reduction and discontinuation rates generally decreases over the time with ibrutinib in both, which has been documented in both clinical trials as well as real world data. The same was seen in infection. The majority of infections were grade 1 or 2. Upper respiratory tract infection, pneumonia, UTIs were the most common infection during ibrutinib treatment, and more than grade 3 infection occurred more frequently early in the treatment. Like in first year of the treatment, the risk is highest, which goes down over a period of time. So what to do if any toxicity or adverse events happens? If you observe more than grade 3 non-hematological toxicity or more than grade 3 neutropenia or grade 4 hematological toxicity, then interrupt ibrutinib and restart it only after resolution of the toxicity or adverse event. On restarting, if toxicity reoccurred, then decrease dose to 280. On third recurrence, decrease dose to 140, and on fourth recurrence, you have to discontinue ibrutinib. So considering the fact that there is an increased risk of adverse events if patient has a comorbidities or concurrent medications, we must have, all of us must have a checklist before we start ibrutinib. If patient has a history of ongoing poorly controlled bleeding or major life-threatening bleeding or ongoing anticoagulation that cannot be stopped even briefly, or patient is older than 75 years of age, having cardiac comorbidities or unexplained syncopal attack, then in that situation, even though it is not contraindicated, think twice before starting ibrutinib, and if at all it has to be started, start with caution with close monitoring. If patient is on ongoing invasive fungal infection treatment or any impending or planned surgical procedure is there, then wait, complete it, and then start the ibrutinib therapy. Checking of the liver function test and the concurrent medication list is must because it might alter the dose of the ibrutinib. HBV status has to be documented prior to starting ibrutinib because it can cause a reactivation of HBV. So now we will go quickly through the clinical trials with the single drug or combination in relapsed refractory and upfront CLL patients, which has made a significant change in progression-free survival and to some extent changed the natural history of the disease. So Resonate was the first trial which enrolled the previously treated relapsed refractory patient, and it showed significant improvement in the median progression-free survival, 44 months in all higher risk population. If you do the sub-analysis of the higher risk population, the best response was seen with the 11 Q deletion, 60 months of median progression-free survival, with the lowest response rate in 17 deletion P, 17P, deletion 17P with TP53 mutation, TP53 mutation, and complex carrier characteristics abnormality, where you see the progression-free survival of 40 months. IGHV mutation status did not alter the progression-free survival, and in unmutated as compared to CIT, it has shown a good response. If you see this graph, it shows that lower is the number of the prior line of therapies, better will be the progression-free survival in relapsed refractory CLL patients. So to conclude, this Resonate 6 trials, which has published its 6-year follow-up report in 2019, confirms the long-term safety and efficacy of ibrutinib in relapsed refractory CLL patients. Overall response rate was 91%, with improved outcome in all risk groups. Hypertension was observed in 21% and AF in 12%, with discontinuation of ibrutinib happened in 16% of patients. Moving ahead to Resonate 2 trial study, where the previously untreated patients were enrolled, which again shows a significant improvement in the progression-free survival, and the best results were in the 11q deletion with 79% progression-free survival at 60 months. As it was in previous study, IGHV mutational status did not alter the progression-free survival. This again confirms that long-term safety and efficacy of ibrutinib in previously untreated CLL, and improved outcome in all risk groups except in 17P, because 17P patients were not included in this trial. Major side effects which were observed were major hemorrhage 11% and AF in 16%. 73% patients could continue ibrutinib more than 3 years. That means 27% patient had to discontinue ibrutinib even though there was a good efficacy. So this was a poster presented in this year ASH on Resonate and Resonate 2 extended follow-up data, and it shows again that if ibrutinib is started in an earlier line, you have a best. So this extended data of combined Resonate and Resonate 2 confirms that use of single agent ibrutinib in earlier lines of treatment results in better progression-free survival, overall survival, and overall response rate with sustained efficacy in the patients of CLL, including patients with the higher risk prognostic features. Only 6% of patients discontinued due to the progression of disease, and ibrutinib was discontinued in 19% of patients due to adverse events. This is the 8-year follow-up. This is the longest follow-up data. The manuscript of this data was published online first on March 24, 2020. It has been peer-reviewed and accepted for publication, but have not yet edited. Quickly go through this data. It shows that 7-year follow-up shows excellent overall response in upfront as well as relapsed refractory patients. If you see this graph, the 7-year progression-free survival in upfront is 83% versus 34% in relapsed refractory. This is overall survival reflected well in overall survival also. If you see the number of lines treatment before the ibrutinib, again it confirmed that if it is ibrutinib is used earlier, it has a better progression-free survival. Sub-analysis of cytogenic abnormality shows that the response is best with when the abnormality is 13q deletion, and the worst when abnormality is 17p deletion. So over conclusion, and then there was a safety profile which again shows that significant number of patients had adverse events, but these grade 3 adverse events generally declined over the period of time, except palpitation which remained persistent. And these adverse event treatment adherence which has led to treatment discontinuation, the number were significant in both first as well as relapse refractory status. However, what they have found is most of these discontinuation were in the first year of the treatment. So the conclusion was that it is the longest follow-up to date, the single agent ibrutinib or any BTK inhibitor data, which shows that there is a sustained disease control in both first line and relapse refractory patients with acceptable tolerability. Means you have to monitor definitely adverse events, and they are manageable as time goes. On comparison of ibrutinib with immunotherapy, this was a latest data which was published in ASH 2019, shows the extended follow-up data of ibrutinib with rituximab versus FCR, and it shows ibrutinib with rituximab has a superior progression-free survival compared to FCR. Less than 7% ibrutinib treated patient progressed on therapy. 14% discontinued due to adverse events, and 7% discontinued due to increased baseline CIRS score. So next is this alliance trial which compared the ibrutinib with rituximab versus BR, and it again shows that ibrutinib and ibrutinib with rituximab had a superior outcome compared to BR. But this trial also showed that addition of rituximab to ibrutinib did not improve progression-free survival over the ibrutinib alone. In Helios trial is on when you combine ibrutinib with the bendamustine and rituximab. It shows there is no progression-free survival benefit on addition of ibrutinib to addition of BR to ibrutinib. Then coming to chemotherapy-free treatment options, like those patients who have comorbidities and not able to start chemotherapy but want to go for a chemo-free option, ibrutinib with obinutuzumab was given, and this shows significant improvement in the ibrutinib with obinutuzumab arm with 79% PFS at 30 months. And if you see this slide is slight busy, but it shows that it works well in all clinical or genetically high risk patients. There were significant number of AEs also which were observed in this trial. So coming to NCCN guideline, based on all this significant improvement progression-free survival data, the NCCN guideline latest in 2019 recommends ibrutinib as a first line of treatment for all patients, whether irrespective of whether patient is young or old, frail or fit, and whether patient has a higher genetic risk abnormality or not. So if you have a good oral treatment which gives a very good progression-free survival with manageable toxicity, why there is a need for further improvement in CLA. Further improvement is required because there are a lot of comorbidities and concurrent medications which increases the adverse events. And if you see the real world data, almost 40 to 50% patients in spite of having good efficacy of this drug, need discontinuation. All those patients who tolerate drug very well, in those patients CR rates are low, and the most disadvantage is it has to be continued for indefinite duration of time with only control on disease and no cure. So there are so many uh, clinical trials and research going on to find out the way with the intention to cure CLL with the fixed duration of treatment. So I have selected 2-3 fixed duration trials which are showing promising results, and first is this Captivate trial, in which ibrutinib is combined with the venetoclax. First 3 months only ibrutinib, followed by ibrutinib with venetoclax for next 12 months. And it has shown almost reaching to 100% overall survival and progression-free survival uh, with with peripheral blood showing 75% of patients showing MRD negativity, and bone marrow showing 72% patient MRD negativity. So first time we are talking about the MRD negativity, and as we know that deeper is the response, more is the expected is the CR and the progression-free survival. So with the same combination, MD Anderson has come out and with it echoed the same results like Captivate trial. 75% of patients showed MRD negativity, and this is ongoing. In 2019, actual started, and here with ibrutinib with venetoclax, they have added obinutuzumab with the hope that it will have a more deeper remission and more sustainable duration of progression-free survival of treatment. So with all these ongoing fixed duration trials, they with the promising results, there is a potential that these trials may change the standard of care in future, provided the same results are evident in follow-up trials. And this was in May 2020. I saw in Blood combination of the ibrutinib with CD19 targeted CAR T cell therapy. There was a lot of work going on in CAR T cell therapy in relapsed refractory patients, but the incidence of CRS was very high when it is used alone. But in this pilot trial, what they have shown that 90 patients they have enrolled, they started ibrutinib more than 2 weeks before leukapheresis and continued for more than 3 months after CAR T cell infusion. And it was tolerated well in all patients with low cytokine release syndrome severity. And they have shown overall response of 83% with MRD negativity, 61%. And the probable overall survival at 1 year predicted is 86% with PFS 59%. However, all these are in pipeline and need follow-up data to confirm their efficacy as well as safety. So to conclude my talk, I would say robust data on ibrutinib has shown sustained and durable response in treatment naive as well as pre-treated CLL. Outcome is better when it is used as an earlier line. Efficacy in high-risk CLL better when compared with CIT. Toxicity is limitation but manageable and needs close monitoring as it decreases over a period of time. Fixed duration combination with venetoclax plus minus obinutuzumab may change the treatment landscape of CLL. Thank you very much.